Hi, my name is Ryan Myers, and I did the Halloween for my formative speech. Halloween is celebrated every year, obviously, and I bet you didn't know that it was celebrated all the way back 2,000 years ago, almost by the pagans. In fact, that's where it originated from. You probably wonder how you celebrate Halloween as opposed to what they did back then. Throughout this speech, I will tell you how we still use some of their traditions today and how they kind of relate to when back then and how they still influence us. According to the origins of Halloween, Druids celebrated this holiday. And here is their citation. They did this by they did bonfires and they thought this would help keep evil spirits away. Oftentimes they would let their doors open because this would let the good spirits in of, say, dead family members and bring positive vibes into the household. And they would have a fire called a hearth, and they would let this burn all night, and then it would gather around with the good spirits and loved ones and everything, and they could celebrate it. And once the fire burned out, it was supposed to help them during the winter months for cold and not freeze to death, basically. We do this today with like dressing up in costumes of, like, say your favorite character. Like mine is Batman, obviously, but you can do anything you want, really. It's just all what your preference is. According to the World Book of Encyclopedia, the origin of Halloween can be traced back to ancient pagan festival celebrated by the Celtics over 2,000 years ago, as I previously stated, and that's by the World Book Encyclopedia. There's a citation. Christians actually use this day as an All Souls Day. It was basically honoring all the dead souls that had passed on. When I was a little kid, actually, in elementary school, we would actually have a parade and go around and sing to the townspeople. Now I live in Gettysburg, and we have a tremendous background with like ghosts and everything else. So as we were singing, it was supposed to like ward off evil spirits and bring good spirits into everybody's homes and everything else. So we did that every year, obviously, on Halloween, but it was a tradition, just like back in the pagans, when they would have festivals and sing and go around singing and honoring the dead. Another part that they did actually back then is they would do trick-or-treating and do all kinds of like pumpkin pies and stuff like that. Now, trick-or-treating was basically used as basically what it is. Either you got a treat, or you would play a prank on somebody that if they they didn't give you any candy or anything. Basically, much like today, it was used as kids to run around and do whatever they want and for one night. We actually, in my hometown of Biglerville, we are big into apples, and it's an apple country. And the apple harvest comes in every October, late September, early October, and they have what is called an apple harvest. Now that is basically just like celebrating early Halloween. We would do pumpkin pies, you do apple bobbing for apples, stuff like that, much like they did back in the olden days, just to celebrate Halloween and honor the dead and everything else like that. They would do like apple pies and all kinds of foods. It's basically all about the food and traditions of way back when. The history.com that I found states that Druids built huge sacred bonfires where people gathered crops and animals and offer them as sacrifices, basically, to the Celtic deities. And here's history.com's citation. Now, we celebrated in my hometown. Again, I use a lot of me, but we do celebrate big bonfires and stuff like that. We all do all kinds of things around the bonfire. Obviously, we don't wear animal skins like they do and put on animal heads and run around, but we do put on like animal costumes that are made for this special holiday and things like that. So We do celebrate it just like they did. It's just we alter it a little bit to to conform to society, I guess it is. But the same basis, I would say, is used from when it was back then. Uh, yeah, the well, we would do carvings like myself. I think it was the Romans that, or not ancient Romans, the Celtics would actually use pumpkin carvings, and they would carve vegetables and things like that, and they would, just use it to like ward off evil spirits per se, like we do with carving pumpkins. My family and I, we have a tradition where we go camping and carve out pumpkins. Another tradition that we do, that they still do, they did back in the day, is here is my niece Abby. If you can see that. This is at a pumpkin patch, and it's called a haunted hayride, where we go and gather pumpkins and stuff like that, and in order to carve. And the pagans did that as well by, like I said, gathering vegetables and stuff like that, and carving pumpkins and whatnot. And here is another example. Is we were picking out pumpkins to carve. So we would go, and like I said, we would go into our camping trips, and we would go and carve out pumpkins, and we would light candles. They would stick like little tea candles in there, just to light up, just to like ward off evil spirits per se, and just to celebrate the souls like the Christians did. Okay. In conclusion, Halloween can obviously be traced back through many, many years. It's been pretty much fine-tuned to conform to today's society of what's good and what's bad. But if you look at the basis of Halloween throughout my examples, that the Romans, the early Christians, and the Celtics, they all basically had one thing in common, much like we do today, is we celebrate Halloween for Souls Day, where we ward off evil spirits, welcome good spirits, and celebrate the dead and the people who have passed. As I said, the common denominator in everything is that Halloween was celebrated pretty much on the same basis as it was over 2,000 years ago, and I find that very interesting, and I hope you realize that you are pretty much celebrating a tradition that's been going on for 2,000 years.